Hi everyone, welcome to the Early Career Podcast. My name is Priyanka Mahankali, your host and friend. First of all, if you've been following me, if you've been watching the podcast, some of my other episodes, thank you so much for doing that. It's there to help you grow in your career, and for me, it's really important to see you succeed. So if anything from any of the previous videos stood up, anything that you learned, maybe anything that you're working on because it resonated with you, please feel free to send me a note on LinkedIn or add in a comment. I try to look at most of them, and it really gives me great joy to know that I impacted someone's life positively. So with that, thank you so much for joining this episode. Actually, this is one of those episodes that I feel like I've been trying to make for the last 5 years, and I finally got down to making it because I launched the podcast and now I feel like this is the perfect time. So before we get started, I wanted to introduce myself since I have not done that more formally on this podcast. As you know, I'm Priyanka Mahankali. I work at one of the biggest cloud companies in the world. So we're at the forefront of innovation and AI adoption, and we see what customers are doing in that space. And so I'm telling you this because I want you to know where you're receiving whatever I'm sharing from. This is real world advice from someone who is working in the space right now, right? Like I'm in the industry, I'm in the top tech and cloud companies of the world where they're designing the next generation of AI services and products. And so I get first-hand information about not just information, but also first-hand experience from customers about how they're building and adopting, and also first-hand information about how the workplace is changing, right? So I really want you to understand the reason I'm sharing this is because, nowadays there's so many content creators, there's so many influencers, which is all great, right? People are coming up with all kinds of content. But at the same time, it's important for you to know who is influencing you. Because, if someone has done something in the past and then now they're talking about it like years later, they may not have the real world experience of as of right now. Not that their experience doesn't matter at all, but you need to have a spectrum of different types of people who are influencing your mind. People who are maybe not in that space anymore, but maybe they're psychologists, they're experts in understanding human behavior and things like that, but combined with people who are really in that space right now, who are working in that space and who are giving you minute by minute real time information, because that's really important. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to achieve a certain level of credibility before I actually decided to make this podcast, because I want to make sure that I'm a responsible content creator and I don't want to just be theoretical, right? Because in theory, I can be a great motivational speaker, but I'm not here to give you, I'm here to give you motivation, but I'm not here to give you a motivational speech. I'm here to give you the tough love, the real stuff that I go through, and hopefully you learn from it. So it's not necessarily for like a quick dopamine hit, that we see on short reels, right? It's meant to be content that really helps you rewire your brain, really think through how to change your daily habits, your lifestyle, and as an extension of that, how you show up for work and how you present yourself, changing behavior habits at work in your workplace. And that's my focus. And so this is a long game, right? And so I'm not here to give you the feeling of, quick dopamine or happiness, that sort of thing. But hopefully you're watching this for the long game, for gaining actual information and knowledge at the depth that I go into, because, my videos, as you notice, are not 30 minutes, are not 30 seconds long. They're 30 minutes, 1 hour long. And, my mom was like, hey, why don't you just create short reels, right? And I said, yeah, I can do that, but I also want to make sure I actually focus on the depth, which cannot be covered in 30 seconds. I need to go into the depth of a certain topic, and that's what I feel like my viewers deserve, right? And that's why my videos are 30, 45 minutes, 1 hour, because I want you to really be invested and really understand why something matters or how to do something properly. And that cannot be covered in 30 seconds. So if someone's trying to cover that in 30 seconds, it's just for that it's either a rage bait or it's that emotional sort of triggering effect that makes you want to click on it or like it, and engagement basically, right? And so I'm not here for engagement. I'm here to help you learn and help you succeed. So with that, today's topic is on mentorship and networks. I've heard so many people tell me or ask me, hey Priyanka, how did you build your network? And how do you know all these people at the company that you work at? And I was like, actually, I started to realize that it's a natural instinct of mine to just fundamentally care for people. And initially I was like, yeah, wait, why do I have all these connections? And why do all these people enjoy talking to me as much as I enjoy talking to them? And so I wanted to share some of the sort of the secret sauce of how to build the right networks the right way. And this is not one of those things where you just, you talk to someone and then the next day you benefit from it, right? I'm talking about networks that help you in the long term, networks where you can foster the relationship for a longer period of time in order to actually, I hate to use the word gain because it's, again, puts you in a mindset of, I need to get something out of it. So, and let me explain that a little bit. So when people reach out to me, they ask me, hey, Priyanka, I reached out. You told me to reach out to this person. I reached out and, nothing happened. It just fizzled out. Then I asked them, okay, so when did you reach out to them? Did you set up a time to reach out to them again? Like maybe in a couple of weeks or in a month or something, depending on their availability? And they're like, no. And I said, well, that's the problem, right? Because you're not being intentional about creating the connection over a longer period of time. Something that's so transactional, like you can't just reach out to someone and say, hey, my name is so-and-so, can you help me get a job? No, you have to show them who you are, first of all, try to get them on a call. And when you get on a call, first of all, get on video. I talked to so many people where I'm on video, I'm the one helping them and I'm on video and they're not. I get that you're shy, so I'm not judging you, but I'm saying that you have to get on video, show your face, show your smile, show your level of empathy. Body language can really sometimes help when your confidence in your voice may be low. And if it's just your voice, then the other person doesn't have anything to go off of, right? So when I was in my between 25 to 30, even now I do it a lot, but during that time, like literally, even if I looked horrible, I would think, okay, which is worse, looking horrible and getting on camera or not getting on camera so I don't have to show how horrible I look? And, somehow the answer always was, I don't mind getting on camera and looking horrible. Not saying that you should look horrible, try to maybe, look presentable. But, we always, and as women, we always think, oh, my hair is not well done. And, when they get on camera, sometimes, like when I gently nudge someone to get on camera, they look perfectly fine, But it's women, we generally have the habit of always being overly self-critical where we think, oh, my hair is not done or, I didn't put any makeup on, I don't have any lipstick or anything like that, right? And I would literally just, I'd sometimes have oil in my hair and I would just kind of get on call, right? Not suggesting you should do that by any means. But I just didn't care because I was so relentless that I wanted people to see me and I wanted people to know me, right? So I just kept, just showing my face, try to find every outlet to, show my presence and show my passion. And sometimes, these things are communicated through your eyes, through your smile, through your facial features, through your hand gestures like this, that, are sometimes hard to communicate by just saying, hey, I'm passionate about this. But when you say, hey, I'm really passionate, you see the difference? There's just so much difference because the body language adds such a huge element of trust. to the other person that's talking to you. So every time you wonder why a networking connection fizzled out, it's because you were too transactional with the person. You can't go in with the expectation that the person is immediately going to drop everything and just help you. You are the one that needs the help. So you are the one that has to actually put in the effort, You have to put in the work, because nobody's going to want to help you just like that. You have to build. If you want privilege and you want leverage, you have to build it. You won't just have it. And just because someone said, hey, I'm happy to help whenever I can, because I say it all the time. I say, yeah, I'm happy to help. Please reach out. And more often than not, even if people are transactional with me, I still help, because I know, I give them the benefit of doubt because I've been there, right? But not everyone's going to do that, and not everyone's, people are busy, people get busy, right? And they may have their own career priorities. So if you want to inject yourself into as part of their to-do list, then you have to show potential. And so when you're talking to them, let's say you reach out to someone on LinkedIn, you say, hey, I'm so-and-so person. I looked at your profile and this is something I really liked about you. Could I talk to you for a few minutes, let's say 30 minutes next week? Do you have a chance to talk? Sometimes I don't even say what I want. I just say, hey, this is something I noticed about you. I'd like to connect with you. Because that shows that you are making the other person feel valued. Hey, listen, making someone feel valued is also an art. Everyone can't do that, and that's why I'm helping you. I'm helping you to approach these conversations, approach these situations from a place of empathy, right? Because everyone cannot be like that. And so that can be a differentiator, that can be your leverage, right? If we're talking about this AI world, right? And what are things that you can add, where you can add value. Judgment is one, but empathy is a close second. So, that's point number one. And when you reach out to that person, gently just nudge them but be specific about, keep the message short, but be specific about the time that you want to meet them in, as in like, hey, can I set up 30 minutes with you sometime in the next week? Like give them, a week. And if they say, hey, next week's really busy, say, hey, how about the following week? So, ask them very specific questions in terms of dates and timeframes, because it's not the other person's responsibility to do that. It's your responsibility. Remember, if you want help, you have to take the burden of making it the most convenient for the other person to not to be able to say no, because you are the one who has the need, right? Not the other person, at least not initially. So if that's clear in your mind, because a lot of people, when they reach out to me, they have like this sense of ego, or this sense of almost entitlement that, I should somehow help them. And I do, again, because I give people the benefit of doubt. But again, I'm protecting you in general, because not everyone is going to do that. And even I may not do that, because I may just forget. Like, imagine if I have only 1 hour in the day, in the evening, and I go to LinkedIn, let's say, and I look at 2 messages. One from someone who, said it the right way, and then one from someone who just said, hey, how are you? I need a job. Can you help me? And I have just a limited amount of time. Which do you think I'm going to pick, right? Someone who had a great message, a great sense of empathy and connection built into it, or someone who's just purely transactional, who doesn't even pretend like they care about me, right? Who are you going to pick? All of this comes down to human behavior and human psychology, right? It's all tied, intertwined, because end of the day, we are humans. So always, whenever you're trying to do something, approach it from a human perspective. Like, how would a human being react? What does human behavior look like? You have to understand these things. And that's why you'll see a lot of my content is based on human psychology, because that is literally how I excel. That is literally how I succeed, by trying to, there's a really good line from Suits. If you watch Suits, Harvey says, play the man, right? And he says that because it's not about the court case, it's about the person that you're up against, right? Who are you up against? And so it's the same thing. It's in this case, it's not who are you up against. It's understanding a certain person, what their accomplishments are, maybe something you like about them, and then using that, or not using that, but finding that as a way to create connection. These are called bids for connection, right? You are creating a sort of space where a connection can be formed. And so that's really important to understand. Few years back, when I was in my late 20s, around 27, 28, I pitched a business proposal within aviation for a new product. And in order to do that, right, I had to really find people, other people, pull together a community within my company to actually vouch for me, advocate for me, believe in me. Because a lot of the times, data points are there, sure, but in the end, it's also about the person and their credibility and the trust that they've built, and how far people think that they can go, right? You have to show potential. And so I built hundreds of connections within my company to actually show people who I am, who is the person behind the idea, right? And show them what I was capable of doing, and show them my passion, my energy. And you know what? I didn't know anything about aviation. So it's not like I was some aviation expert. I didn't know anything. But what I did have is the people skills. And you know what? That's what took me to the top. The outcome of this was that I ended up getting so much momentum because of the people that I knew and the people that I actually talked to, that literally almost everybody knew me. And, people knowing you at a company that is already, that has highly skilled people is already very hard. It's like the MIT of the world. And so in that space where people are already extremely competent, excelling is very hard, right? And how do you differentiate yourself? And so you need to find these bits and pieces of how you can differentiate yourself. So eventually, I actually was able to create my own role within aviation. And so I became the one who was leading connected aircraft, which is a sub-vertical within aviation, for all of my company. And I was like the single point of contact for everything related to connected aircraft. And so I created my own role. I defined the role and I said, hey, this is what I think is a priority. And I really was able to create a community around it. So in a sense, you have to know how to influence, right? But my way of doing it is influencing through empathy. And when you do that, it's not going to be short. It's not going to be a transactional thing. And that's why people think that networks don't work. Networking, I went to this networking event, I did that. I talked to all these people, but nothing worked. It's because you're doing it wrong. Literally now, I have probably 15 to 20 people at least, okay, that I'm very close with. And they're literally they're like almost my best friends. They're part of my inner circle. They're the ones that I go to when I need emotional support, when I feel vulnerable at work, when I don't know what I'm doing. I feel very comfortable going to them because they've seen who I can be at my best. And so when someone's seen who you can be at your best, it feels okay to show who you are at your worst, because both those things can exist and it's okay for them to exist. And at the same time, I also want to be vulnerable, because how are they going to mentor me if I'm not sharing my deepest, darkest challenges, right? And so this brings me to the topic of mentorship. How do networks become mentors? This is interesting because I was someone who always tried to find the good in people since I was young. And the way that translated into adulthood and my career is that every time I would talk to someone, I would, recently last week, I was talking to one of my male colleagues, and this is the first time I'm talking to them. And I noticed that they had a really beautiful eye color, right? This really blue, but this sparkly blue, not just blue, very sparkly, glowy, endearing eyes. And so I told him, and a lot of people would think, oh, I don't know what he's gonna think, and and like compliments, oh, I don't know how people are gonna perceive it, blah blah. But when you say it in a confident way, and the intent with which you're saying it, there's no way someone can misinterpret it, okay? And so I do this all the time, and guess what? I mean, we all love compliments, right? We all do. So just say it. Just say, hey, by the way, before we get started, I just wanted to say that I noticed your eye color, and I just want to let you know it's really rare, especially because I come from India, and in India, having blue eye colors are really, really rare. It's like 0.001% or something of the population. And you know what? That was not only a great icebreaker, but that was also a way where we both learned something, because he immediately was like, that's interesting. And he started looking up stats, and that's how we started our conversation, and we didn't even know each other, right? So this is interesting because it helps create connections. And now I don't actually remember what I spoke to him about work exactly, but I remember that he has blue colored eyes. Because human beings in the end will always choose our memory. The way our memory works is we'll always prioritize things that are more familiar, that are more primal to us than things that are more arbitrary. Like, for example, things like work and companies and all of that is like very abstract for us. So we don't actually prioritize that as a memory. What we will prioritize is something that is a human element. Either it's kindness, or it's like character traits or physical appearances, something, right? And so sometimes even like my manager, if he's wearing something nice, I will say, hey, you're wearing a nice coat today. What's up? Did you have like a customer meeting or something? And then, we kind of start talking about it. So, and I'm not of the opinion, because I've seen a lot of influencers say, you shouldn't talk about the weather, or you shouldn't talk about, you shouldn't start by saying, hey, how are you doing? Because that's a way you lose connection. Or, I don't think that, because I don't think these things should be really orchestrated to that extent. I just think my opinion is that just, even if you ask how's the weather there, the way you say it, the tone in which you say it, the intent with which you say it, if your intent is genuine connection, if you genuinely want to know how the weather is, and then you'll have the right next follow-up question automatically, which is, oh, actually that's great for you. I'm really glad it's getting warmer for you, because for me it's still really cold. And then they're gonna ask you like, oh my God, I feel bad for you, because and so you kind of like create a connection. So I feel like even a how are you doing can create a good connection. It doesn't matter. It's about your personal capabilities. Because when I ask someone, I don't say, hey, how are you doing? I say, hey Mike, how are you doing? It's like, and a smile, with a very friendly sort of welcoming vibe. And that automatically makes the person sort of less guarded. You can see it in their body language. So they're like, yeah, I'm good, Priyanka. How about you? And so there's like, they also start talking the same way. And I actually cover the psychology of this in an episode about interviews. How do you lead your own interview? And one of the first things I share there is the first 10 seconds of how you start a conversation is more or less going to define the rest of the 30 or 60 minutes, whatever it is. And even kind of over time defines the relationship itself. Because, if you start off very formal, then the relationship remains formal. Because I know people with whom, or who talk to me like, hey, Priyanka, how are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. How about you? And that's fine too, right? Everyone doesn't have to be your buddy, and everyone doesn't have to be your mentor. Everyone doesn't have to be your friend. And that's okay too, right? People can, and maybe someone else doesn't like me. So maybe that's why they're like that. But they might be different with someone else. And that's okay. As long as I have people I like, and as long as I'm working on myself, that's all I need to know. I don't need to worry too much about who likes me and who doesn't. And we'll cover this in the next later episode, where I'll talk about how to view judgment and how to kind of redirect the focus on yourself. Because when you're in your early career, it's natural that you will think about what people think of you. And if people say, oh, don't think about that, that's just not possible. Also because when you're in your early career, you have no way to assess where you stand and what your skills are like compared to the general audience or environment that you're in. So you have to compare, and when you compare, then you start judging yourself, and most likely you will be more critical with your own self, right? So it's normal, right? And I'll cover this more in depth, but don't I don't think I'm not of the opinion that we have to stop feeling what we feel. It's not about stopping, it's about reframing or redirecting that same energy. If you feel this way, fine, let's find a different way to either look at it or a way to redirect that anxious energy of someone judging you, right? But it's totally okay to feel that way, and actually you should be self-critical to some extent, and you should think about what other people think of you to some extent, because otherwise you're not going to be able to create the community that I'm talking about. And so coming back to my last point, which is on mentorship, right? I think one of the ways that you can decide to have a mentor, or how do you know you want someone to be a mentor? First of all, it has to be someone ideally from your network that we talked about how to build, and then basically ask them, hey, I think this is something I really like about you. For example, I have different mentors for different things. I have a mentor for life skills. I have a mentor just to vent, sometimes you just need that too. And someone who's not your family, not your friends, someone in your professional connection, but someone who's like a friend, who's like a family member, but not them. You need to have that. Then another one for like business strategy, because that's what I want to get into more of. So business strategy and looking at things at scale, and also looking at innovation. Then someone for like the technical details. How do we architect things, right? And then so on and so forth. So I have different mentors at different levels of seniority, as well as at different horizontals, like different kinds of things that they are actually good at. And I tell them, hey, this is something I noticed about you, which I really like. Would you be open to being my mentor? For someone to want to be your mentor, you need to show your potential, because even a mentor picks their mentees, right? I'll repeat, a mentor also picks their mentees based on what they think the mentee's potential is going to be. Because who wants to put their name behind someone who they don't believe has potential? Not just name, it's actually more time, right? Because in the end, if someone's your mentor, then they are committing to a certain amount of time they're going to spend with you. That's the whole point of asking someone to be your mentor, is because they are now accountable for your career. They're accountable for things that you're going to do in your life. And so in some way, they're accountable for your success and failures. And so they're putting a lot of time to make sure that you are evaluating your year, your goals, how successful. But in the end, you have to drive it. You can't expect the mentor to drive it. They are there to nudge you. They are there to help you see around corners. But in the end, you have to drive the connection. Like I said, if you have the need, you are the one who has to put all the effort. The other person is just going to nudge you, right? And just because I understand this early on, I have a diary literally where I have a whole mapping of different people that I have for different kinds of things, and what is the cadence that I want to talk to them in. Because there are some people who are like so senior, like they're VP level, so they probably have only time once in every 3 months or every 4 or 5 months, etc. So there's that. Then there's also people who are like more technical and detailed, and they actually enjoy talking about technical conversations and like technical strategy, and like product building and market fit and that sort of thing. And so I have people that I talk to on a much more regular basis about that, like in a monthly basis or bi-weekly basis, depending on what their availability looks like. But I always ask them like, hey, how do you want it to be? And I'll always try to find a common ground with someone where it's fair for the other person, because I want to know, I want to make my mentor know that I'll always find a middle ground. And that, again, is a skill. You're trying to show them who you are indirectly, right? You're not telling them, hey, I'm really good at building a common ground. You're showing it. And it's the same thing where if you put effort in trying to continue to build the connection, they're viewing it as, oh, this person's really consistent. I need to take this person seriously because they're taking me very seriously. So consistency is very important, and consistency and effort are really important because they show the other person who you are over a period of time. And that creates long-term trust that then creates the right kinds of opportunities to either work together or for them to help you when you actually need it. You can't just find a network or create an instant connection and then assume that this person's just supposed to magically help you out, right? That's why most networks just absolutely fizzle out. The other thing I'll leave you with is try to find other ways to fill your cup, your empathy cup, because when you're trying to deal with people, you need a lot of patience, you need a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy, and you also need to be very relentless. You need to be absolutely relentless, right? If you identify that there is something about someone that you want to learn, you have to be relentless in trying to reach out to them, keep connecting with them, keep nurturing the connection. The nurture part is missing in the society now. People, I rarely see that. And you won't believe how much, like, I feel like I do less of my actual job and I do more of like the network building and the, all of that. And over the 9 years that I've been at my company, it has paid off in such amazing ways where like literally we are each other's, my mentors are like my best friends. And every time I have a mental breakdown, like it feels less intense. I don't go into like very depressive episodes because I'll just call them and say, hey, I feel horrible. But the reason I'm able to say that is because I've reached a level of comfort with them over time, because I'm not someone who's able to easily open up. But if I do, I'll go all the way, right? But it takes time to build that comfort, and it's okay. But to get to that point, when people ask me, oh, how did you get to that point? Or how's your ex-manager your best friend? I'm like, because I built the connection and I built trust. I built common grounds to work together. I created environments where they can disagree with me, I can disagree with them, and we can still be okay with it. Not just okay, but more than okay. In fact, I invite disagreements. This is another thing I'll cover is how to disagree with someone and still have a wonderful, meaningful connection with them. Because disagreement is not the end of everything. In fact, it's the beginning. You are showing someone that when they disagree with you, how are you going to deal with it? And how are you also going to accommodate their opinions, their viewpoints? Because that, again, it creates trust, right? So these are ways that I'm sharing with you, and you can create your own way of how to indirectly show your potential over a period of time so that someone wants to create a network with you and someone wants to be your mentor. Because the network is like a more passive thing where they're not accountable for anything. But mentorship, if someone's agreeing to be your mentor, that's huge. And when someone decides to be my mentor and I really respect the someone, I like do my happy dance, after the call. I'm like, yes, this person decided to be my mentor, because I know that after this point, I'm like, we're in a mutual understanding that when I set up a call, they know why. It's not like I'm setting up something and it's a mutual agreement or an understanding that, what, you're going to help me in my career journey. And that is the best kind of win you can have. And that's what opens up all kinds of opportunities, which I will not tell you what are the tangible types of opportunities, because you won't know it. And the way you actually approach these scenarios is to be truly selfless. You have to be selfless. You can't approach this from a transactional perspective. And I talk to so many people And very few people actually have the art and skill to connect, you know. Most people, if I tell them, hey, reach out to me anytime, they'll reach out, but it'll be so dry and it'll be so transactional that you're almost like, okay, sure, But you should create your messaging should be in such a way that you should make the other person want to talk to you, because you're creating this environment for connection, and the other person sees that. They're like, you know what, this person, the way they wrote this message, I feel compelled to talk to them now, right? That's the place that you want to be, and that's when you will have the feeling of control, if you want to have it, right? In some sense. Still, you will have, even with all of this, you will have disappointments where someone may not want to reach out to you. But I'm not, from my own real life experience, I'll tell you that 99% of the times, I'm not kidding, 99% of the times, people have always agreed to talk to me. But that's because I studied them for a while. I did my research. I figured out what kind of a person they are, what kind of background they have. And it's also who I sound when I'm on the call with them. And that's because I genuinely care about people. I mean, I genuinely care about everybody. Like, I try to care about animals. I do a lot of animal charity work. And this is the other thing, right? Like, I talked about filling your cup. Find other ways in your community or your environment where you can do something good to feel good, so that you can then maybe use that to foster your connections. Because sometimes you also get tired. Well, I never actually get tired, but maybe it's also because I try to intentionally fill my cup. So like after recording this, I'm going to go to something called contrast therapy, which is basically like a hot, you're going to sit in like a hot tub, and then like you're going to go into like a cold plunge kind of thing, and then a sauna, and then you repeat the whole thing. But I've been feeling a little bit stressed lately, so I thought I'll do that so that I can, kind of relax my nerves and all of that. But it's something that the important part is to do it intentionally. Whatever it is you can do. Like, this was not expensive, by the way. It was like, $50 or something. But it was not expensive for me. Let me rephrase that. But whatever is in your budget, even a walk in the park is fine. It doesn't involve money, right? I was a student too, and I know what it's like to not have less than $10 in your pocket, right? Like, I've been there. Sometimes I still am there right now. You don't want to see my bank balance. So, and that's the thing with life and responsibilities. Like, when you start to upgrade your life, you have more bills to pay. And it's funny because then you imagine that at some point in your life, when you make 100,000 or 150,000, then you'll just have a huge bank balance. But then no, it's that time you have new life responsibilities, and then you still have the same, almost similar bank balance that you had when you were a student, because now you've just upgraded your life. So you've put a lot of like your capex on, a bigger rent, maybe you decided to have kids, maybe you decided to have a great grand wedding, whatever it is. So you create all these things, right? So that's why it's like, even if you're rich, if you're a millionaire, like you're like, oh my God, being a millionaire is not enough. I need to be a multi-millionaire, because now you've created a certain lifestyle, right, around it. Anyway, that's a topic for a different day. But hopefully this gives you a sense of how to build those connections, how to build those mentorships. And by all means, if you want to reach out to me, and if you want to test this theory, try reaching out to me. I will still respond either way, but try reaching out to me in a way where you feel is empathetic, is a bid from your end for connection, is a way where you're able to make me feel valued, and also something where you feel genuinely passionate, where you genuinely care for me, right? By me, I mean literally anybody. Only when you genuinely care for someone is when you should actually ideally reach out to them for mentorship. For networking, I think it's more generic, where if you generally care about people, like at a high level, I think only then you're like an ideal candidate for networking. Otherwise, you need to work on your communication skills. You also need to work on having a more positive mind and finding ways to view people in general in a more positive light. Because sometimes we go through things in life and we see everyone as negative, or we already think that, okay, something is not going to happen. Or we already think, oh, and I'm going to talk to this person, but nothing's going to come out of it. If you already go in with that mindset, I 100% guarantee it's going to come off through your body language, and the other person is going to sense it, right? And so you don't realize how much is said through your body language without you even actually saying it. And that's why I'm saying use the body language for the right purpose, but it starts with having deep intention. With that, I'll see you again in our next episode, where we're going to talk about roles in AI that are going to completely either go away or they're going to completely change. And how do you actually realize and become more aware of what AI is going to be able to do, or what is going to be automated with AI, and what general roles are kind of left. I shouldn't say left, but how to also again, this comes back to reframing, right? How do we reframe this new AI phase, and how do we not be scared about it? How do we actually embrace it? Not just philosophically, but I'm going to give you some hard skills that you can work on. Again, all of these things compound. If you ask me, hey, if I do the certification, will I get this job? No. If I reach out to this person, will I get this job? No. It's like arrows, You know how there's like a dartboard and you have arrows, you keep throwing those arrows? And you need to keep throwing, because you can't ask the first time you throw an arrow if it's going to hit the center, right? Who knows? You don't know either. So you have to keep throwing the arrows until it reaches the center point. But if you don't throw, you will never know. And so you have to keep trying, and you can't ask questions like, if I do this, will I get that? If I do that, nobody knows, right? That's so put in the effort and keep putting the effort and put the effort in the right direction. And that's what I'm here for, to help you with that. And I will guarantee you that you will achieve success eventually. Again, eventually being the key word. You won't just get something today after listening to my podcast, right? You have to put the effort. You have to maybe change some lifestyle habits, If there's any specific topic you want me to cover, please put it in the comments. I'm happy to cover it. But until then, stay happy, stay healthy. Health is the most important thing, even if you don't realize it right now. But take care of your health, take care of your mental health, your physical health. Go to the gym, do your exercise, keep yourself mentally healthy so that you can actually implement all of these things that I talked about. Have a wonderful day, and see you again in the next episode. Bye.